kitchen. Today we are going to tackle one of my favorite fall favorites, stuffed green peppers. It's cold and windy and nasty out there today, and it's a nice warm dinner that uses the oven to heat up the house a little bit. First thing we do is turn our oven on to 350. If you have a convection oven, go ahead and use it here because we only use the oven to kind of melt the cheese on top. Everything else we cook on the cooktop. The reason I do that is that so many stuffed green peppers are full of overcooked, mushy peppers, and I like to keep mine kind of crisp, tender, al dente, if you will. So I'm going to show you how we accomplish that on the stove. So the first thing we have to do is get a big pot of water on to boil. This is not the easiest recipe I've ever made for you all, but it's not super hard. It just has a few more steps than is typical for what I put up out here. So we get a pot of water on to boil and we'll blanch our green peppers. So this is a time for my induction burner that I reviewed recently to shine, and we will get that water boiling. While we're waiting for the water to come to a boil, I'm going to prep the rest of my ingredients. First, I'm going to shred up some Colby Jack cheese for the top. You can use the pre-shredded, but the pre-shredded has some chemicals on it that keep it from caking together, and it's just not quite as melty and gooey. My husband in particular is a big fan of melty and gooey, so I'm going to shred, it looks like maybe a cup and a half of cheese here, and then I'll set that aside. So the next thing we have to do is prepare our green peppers. I have 6 nice big green peppers here. I'm checking to see if they have any stickers on them, and they don't. So we'll rinse these off real quick. So the way I prep these, I use all of the pepper and not just the pepper boat. So I've got a little thing here for the insides. So you just cut the top off and cut it pretty deep. And then we're going to pop out the stem here, and we're going to save this and chop that up and use it in our filling. The other thing that we do is we trim off the bottom so that these sit flat. If you don't, they're all wonky all over the place. So we want it to sit nice and flat. And then there's always a pepper seed in there. I'm going to give this a quick rinse, and then we will repeat. So since I have quite a bit of chopping to do, I'm going to take a shortcut and use one of my favorite tools. I went through a bunch of Vidalia choppers, and then I found this one. This is a Mueller. I need to do a full review on this and all of its pieces. But this will make short work of chopping all of these pieces of green pepper. Or you can just use your knife, and the way you do that is cut each half like that, and then down the sides. So we'll keep chopping while we're waiting for our water to come to a boil. All right, and now we have here perfectly chopped green peppers, and we will set those aside while we chop up our onion. I'm going to use my chopper to chop my onion again. If you would like a tutorial on how to chop it by hand, I have done that a couple of different times, and maybe we can do a link in the comments. All right, onions are all chopped and ready to go, and now we're just waiting for our water to boil. So meanwhile, I'll get my cooking spray here and spray my baking sheet. I'm doing 6 big peppers, so I have a 9x13 Pyrex. That will work just perfectly. So now that my water's come to a boil, I am going to just blanch these peppers. Give them a little bath in the
hot water. This helps cook them just a little bit and seals in that nice bright green color so that they don't turn that olive green. I did put some salt in this water just to season it a little bit. And we'll just let those cook for, about a minute and a half. So now you can see that they still have that bright green color and they're just a little bit more tender. So I'm gonna pop these out and put them in my baking dish. Okay, so now that we're done, we're just gonna dump the hot water and go right back to this hot pan. And I'm gonna have it on, let's do medium-high heat, and we are going to add in ground pork. This is about a pound, maybe a pound and a quarter of ground pork. And I always like to season as I go, so I'll add a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper right here. And then we'll start to break it up and let this start to cook. I always like to add a little bit of Worcestershire sauce to this dish, so I'll put a little bit of that in, and that'll help jumpstart the cooking. The liquid helps. I don't know, what was that? About a teaspoon? You know what? I'm about out, so I'm just gonna put the rest in. So that ended up being more like a tablespoon this time. So now that this is about half cooked, I like to add in my vegetables. So we'll add in all of that onion. That was a really big onion. You can use half that if you prefer. And all of the peppers that were left over from making our pepper boats. And we'll stir that in. Shouldn't have to put any more seasoning in since I ended up using all that extra Worcestershire. But I will put in some more pepper. And we will cook this until the onions are translucent. So it's been about 7 minutes, and you can see the onions are starting to be translucent. The peppers are cooked, and now we can start finishing the dish. So I have here a can of tomato sauce, and put that in. And then I'm going to fill this can with water and add that in as well. So stir that up and let that come to a boil. But before we let this in, this is garlic powder. I accidentally got the ultra fine garlic powder instead of the granulated garlic. See how that works. I've got about a teaspoon of garlic. Garlic and onion is always good, no matter what you've got. And I will taste that. I think I'm going to put a little more garlic in. That's better. Now we'll bring this to a boil. So now this is just starting to bubble, so I am going to use my minute rice. I'm going to put in about a cup of minute rice. This is really, I only keep minute rice around for this recipe. If you have cooked rice already, that's great. If you use brown rice, you can't tell that it's brown rice because of the tomatoes. It covers that up. So if your family is not a big fan of brown rice, you can always sneak it in here. But the minute rice here will cook in that boiling water, and we will have a completed filling. So we'll just let that finish cooking, and I'll be right back. So now our rice has had a chance to soak up that water. If you find that it's too soupy for you, just go ahead and add more minute rice. That's one of the beauties of that processed food. And now I'm going to add in about 1.5 cups of frozen corn so that we have something that really looks delicious and will stand alone as kind of a one-course meal. We will probably have some fruit with this, but otherwise this is dinner. So I'm going to let this come back to a simmer now that I added that cold corn, and then we'll finish up. Now it's all hot again, and I'm just going to cover it and let the minute rice finish cooking. So let's take the lid off and see how it looks. The minute rice has absorbed quite a bit of the broth, and it will continue to do so as it cooks in the oven. It still just has a little bit of a bite, but don't worry about it because you can see that there's still plenty of liquid to be absorbed, and also there's some liquid in the pan. So I like to use my trusty ice cream scoop for this to grab some filling and just fill up these boats. And you may wonder what to do with the rest. I simply add it to the pot and make a casserole around the pepper boats. So we'll get all of that good stuff inside. So see here, we've got plenty of liquid in here for any of those crunchy bits of plenty of liquid for any of those crunchy bits of rice that maybe have not quite fully cooked through. That's why I use minute rice instead of any other variety if I don't have pre-cooked rice, because it just takes too long to try and make that happen. So now we have what my family would call the best part. I have here the cheese that I grated earlier, and we will sprinkle that on top, making sure to have a nice little cap on each one of the stuffed green peppers. We're kind of a cheese family, so a little extra cheese is never enough. So now I will pop this in that 350 convection oven, and we will let it bake for just a few minutes until this cheese is melted and as golden brown as you prefer. So I have here this wonderful trivet that my son made for me in shop class. So I'm gonna set it up and grab the stuffed peppers. They baked for 7 minutes at 350, and then I put them under the broiler for just 2 minutes because crispy cheese is something that my family loves. That one in the middle, the dark one, that one's for my husband. So now we just plate it up. And get some of this extra goodness. For a more attractive presentation, you can try a bowl and nestle that right in there, and it sure looks pretty. Put a little of the extra sauce. So you get to decide. This is prettier, this one's easier to eat. I hope you've enjoyed learning all about stuffed green peppers. Please join us next time, and don't forget to subscribe.